the ongoing JV projects, and the issues and challenges faced. So you're on
Good,
mute.
good morning. I hope now you are listening. I am able to.
Yes.
Yeah, it's correct that IRCON is implementing around six projects, six in the form of SPV, formed with state government and the coal uh, subsidiary company, Coal India subsidiary company, and these project and also in a one project of iron ore evacuation. These are all SPVs which has been created where the 64% share is with the coal subsidiary company, 26% is with IRCON, and 10% is with state government. State government gives the land in lieu of the money, government land, and balance land is acquired by the SPV by paying the money. The model is 20% equity and 80% loan. Yes, the since it is a funded project, it is very difficult sometimes when you get the lot of hurdles in the form of forest clearances and getting the private land acquisition. Also, sometimes NGT stays are there where NGT stays your project. Somebody moves to the court and put the environmental issues. So these are the hindrances which we face during this execution model. And since these are finances by banks, so banks they look for that the revenue, the project should be completed in time, and there should not be cost and time overrun. Because if the clause, in fact, it is quite a bad clause even for the PSUs, because if the project goes beyond the time and cost is increased because of these delays which I have mentioned above, then all the cost is to be borne by the respective PSUs, means Coal India subsidiary, IRCON, and state government will not pay definitely. So both of these will pay, and this will definitely be, since we are a government organization, we also feel a pinch because we put in money from our pocket. But when the private persons will come, they will be definitely looking for these clearances in time because these projects passes through a very tough uh, region where a lot of forest and other issues are there. It's not just like many of the road projects which are passing through just two laning, four laning, or six laning. Here, these issues are very, very important, and I feel that uh, before bringing the private investment, as we are thinking of doing so, so, some method has to be done that land acquisition part, how it is to be done in a faster manner, and how the project gets the clearances is very, very important. And the project, after completion of these projects, which has been infrastructure has been created, who will do the operation and maintenance? Who will do the track maintenance? Who will see the bridges? So these are the very important issues that because a lot of traffic will move over it, whether it is a freight or passenger traffic. So whether the private party who is bringing the investment, they will do it, or railway agencies, they will look into it, is important thing. That is also to be looked into when we see this, because in our project, when we completed one of the project where trains are operating, we have taken the this work of maintenance of the track, where we are maintaining the track and we are taking care of it. But some organizations will be required in near future who will do this part of work also. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. I think that's very insightful. I mean, land acquisition, clearances, and faster execution is the need of the hour, and that brings me to the related question. And I'd ask Mr. Pathak to take it, and then I will also take Mr. Lohia's views on the same. Mr. Pathak, even though Mr. Kumar mentioned that they're looking at PPPs for DFCs and high-speed rail, we know that, I mean, these are very capital-intensive projects and can't primarily be funded through private investment. Also, given the importance of these huge, complex infrastructure modernization projects, fast execution is the need of the hour. So, what, in your opinion, should be done to ensure faster and on time execution of these projects? And also, what lessons can be learned from the past?
Um, Thank you, Akshay. With your permission, let me just suggest that you had asked Pradeep Kumarji about private investment, and you're asking a private sector person about faster execution of railways. So I would only say that people like Achal Khareji, people like Pradeep Kumarji, Arunendra Kumarji, S.K. Chaudhary ji, Sanjeev Lohia ji, all these people are experts at fast implementation. But I would like to add that there are certain projects that will not happen through private investment. And we must not try to unnecessarily feed non-veg food to veg people. So there are some projects which are best done with government funding and government hiring contractors. I can say that something like the dedicated freight corridor is going to be built by private contractors, not with private investment. But once it is built, then it will behave very differently. Private capital will be attracted. Something like a high speed rail will not be built by private investment, will be built by private contractors. So, on behalf of FICCI, our industry association, our association is not only of private investors, a whole lot of private contractors and construction companies are also in our association. So I would only humbly submit that ये PPP के सर पे सींग नहीं है, जहां काम हो वो हो. It is not essential to get private investment at all stages. And this is for my colleagues in railways. There will always be places where private investment is easy. Where it is not easy, please don't force it there, is a request from the private sector. In terms of faster implementation, the old saying is that where there is a will, there is a way. Where there is no will, there is survey. So let us take the example of the dedicated freight corridor. All of us know that the initial rollout and implementation schedule was that it will become operational in 2012. We are in 2021. In terms of project execution, the railways is becoming so much better. And I'm sure that all the experts in the panel will tell us what can be done even beyond that. But I will just mention 2 points here. We have shown that the railways in India are anti-fragile. Let me just explain this further. Fragile is something that breaks under stress. If you drop a glass or a tumbler on the floor, it will break. Anti-fragile is something that will bounce back. So the railways has shown us from March 2020 to January 2021 that it is one of the most anti-fragile organizations in India. January's speed of freight trains has gone up from 1 year ago. It was 22 kilometers per hour. Now it is 47 kilometers per hour. Railways have shown us that in the worst time of the COVID pandemic, they were getting ready to do all the long pending maintenance, all the repairs. So many unmanned level crossings have been converted into culverts. So railways knows what to do and also knows how to do. The quicker the project execution for, let us say, the two DFCs or the new four DFCs or the new high-speed rail or semi-high-speed rail, that is what will benefit us, not unnecessarily trying to stress upon private investment. I will rest for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pathak. Mr. Lohia,
Yes.
lessons can be learned from the past to ensure faster and on-time execution.
Well, I'll just enumerate some of the points and the lessons which uh, we always say that well planned is half done. Most of the works planning many times take a back seat. We as bureaucrats are starting the execution without adequate planning. So that affects the faster execution. So that is one very, very important thing. Second thing which we have seen that no incentive or penalty clause in the contract. Even contractors also they stay on very, very small things also. And the entire focus of the management is not on plugging the rules and things. Third is the contract clarity. The document is quite clear. So the confusions would be lesser in terms of its interpretation and monitoring at the level. If you take example of DFC, time Honorable MR started reviewing on weekly basis. Many of the things they got, I would say, as imponderable at what it required land acquisition, which was held up for, I would say, considerable period of time. It got the attention, and all those things, the coordination, etc., it happened, and the things rapidly folded out. In fact, these multiple stakeholders are involved in a project, so this monitoring always helps. And last but not least is capacity building, which is blatantly, I would say, ignored because many times we think that we have been executing contracts, we know everything. But the only thing we know is what we do not. Many times we do not know what we do not know. And that is the basic crux because we, at the position of authority, we think that nobody can teach us anything. So whatever we are saying, that is all correct. So that becomes a very big bottleneck in faster execution. We take certain stands without seeing the other side's part of it. Thank you. Akshay, you are muted. Akshay, you are muted.
Yes, I was saying thank you, Mr. Loya. So, well drafted contracts, monitoring, and capacity building. These are the three takeaways we'll keep in mind. Thank you. Uh, I'll just come to Mr. Khare. As per the project pipeline of the Indian Railways, significant investments will be required in high-speed rail. And Mr. Pradeep Kumar also mentioned the future plans in HSR. So these are touted as, say, 5 lakh crore between 2026 to 31 and 3 lakh crore between 31 to 41. Now we know that the ongoing HSR project is being financed through bilateral assistance. What can be the expected models for funding future HSR? Can we expect financial contributions from state governments as well?
Good afternoon, Akshay. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Before I really go into the details, I tend to agree what Mr. Shailesh Pathak said, that don't serve veg to non-veg and don't serve non-veg to veg. So starting from there, I always say, you see, there are certain things which are developmental in nature. And such projects are essential for the societies, like road project, railway project, DFC or high speed. Now, these are essential for the society, but these projects should not be seen from financial return point of view. The moment you start seeing from financial return point of view, then there is a issue. I keep saying, had there been lot of financial returns in these projects like high speed or highway or for that matter DFC, then the private industry would not have been putting petrochemical plants and steel plants. They would have been building roads and railways because they need profit. Whereas the society needs infrastructure development, then other things will come up. So we have to make a proper mix of these two. Now, having said that, coming to your question, such heavy investment nowadays, I think metro was one which was capital intensive, then DFC, and high speed is much higher capital intensive projects, probably the highest capital taking projects as far as my understanding goes. So there can be various options. We can, depending upon what corridors we are selecting, what are the economics. But in nutshell, my only point is such projects, whether it is high speed or metro, should be taken more on economic considerations than on financial considerations. Given that, then we can take a call that okay, out of this, which project can attract some amount of private investment, what can be done to offload government's financial burden, and then some burden can be shared by the private sector. A classic example, like what we are doing in Mumbai, Ahmedabad, as we all know, it is bilateral funding through Japan at 0.1%. This is the ideal situation. And coming to your point, whether state can participate or not, let me tell you, in a minor percentage, states are already participating in Mumbai, Ahmedabad. They are equal participant in equity. We have 20,000 crore rupees equity, so 10,000 is coming from central government and 5,000 from each of the state, Gujarat and Maharashtra. For that matter, if you look at metro, even in metros, there is a equity participation from state. So states are participating and should participate, not for financial reasons, but for also to make them accountable. After all, land is a state subject. So if they are the stakeholder, one of the question which was addressed to many of us in this forum was that faster execution. So if a state becomes a stakeholder, definitely their interests are involved, and then we can ensure faster execution. But if the states are not the stakeholder, then there are issues what Dr. Chaudhary was raising or what Lohia has raised. It becomes a very serious issue. So definitely multilateral, bilateral funding, government involvement, and also to the extent possible, some private sector participation. The two examples in high speeds are Taiwan high speed and the Paris Bordeaux high speed. But even if you closely look at these two projects, government support was very close to almost 50 to 60%. So in such capital intensive project, it cannot be purely private sector. There can be certain corridors where private sector can get some kind of attraction. But again, government handholding, not only in terms of clearances and the land, but also in form of financial handholding. And that typical 20% VGF thing, what is Government of India guideline, may not work in such capital intensive project. The two experience show 50 to 60%. Taiwan, I think most of us would know, had to go under debt restructuring. It was for initially 35 or 40 years. Now it has been taken to 80, 85 years. Having said that, another example is of Japan. So in Japan, what I understand is capital expenditure is again largely supported, though there are private operators, these are all private operators, but capital expenditure is largely supported from the government. Operational thing, further development, further improvement is the baby of the private operator. So it's a question of having a mix. If you have a mix, then probably such capital intensive projects can be made successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Khare. Yes, absolutely. I think a very clear theme which is emerging is that from the government's perspective, it's economic IRR, which is very important. And of course, when it's the private side, it comes to equity IRR and project IRR. And for them to be interested in such projects, the timing of their investment has to be seen, and projects have to be structured accordingly to bring the private at the right time so that it's a win-win for both. I'll just come to Mr. Gore. Uh, Sir, as per Mission 41K, the railways had envisaged developing a dedicated power transmission grid for its purposes. Given that railways is one of the largest consumers of electricity, and that will increase with 100% electrification and the upcoming HSR semi-high speed rail, this concept has its own merits. Has there been any further progress on the plan? And again, can private sector participation be leveraged by deploying the tariff-based competitive bidding model, which is prevalent in the power sector here?
Yeah, thank you, Akshayji, and good afternoon to all the panel, eminent panel holders. Most of them are known in the field, and it is my privilege to being from a electric background and explaining this part of the situation. Please try to understand that the railway at present, which consume around 1.8% of the power which is getting produced, is going to further enhance their power consumption by shifting from diesel to the electric side. And it may happen that if we completely, at present, I think 42 to 43,000 route kilometer has been electrified, and the further electrification is going on in a very big way. And you can say the results are coming very, very fast from 1,000 route kilometer to 6,000, 7,000 route kilometer in a year. This is really remarkable. But now, why we should go out for a producing the power or creating a grid? At present in India, grid capacity is enough. We will be having approximately 1,000 traction substations by the time we have a 68,000 route kilometer electrified. The solar traffic, tariff is touching everyday low. It has touched 1.99 very recently. And the way it is going on, we already have I think railway in 2015 got a licensee that they can transmit and distribute the power. So the traction stations can be connected and the power can be produced based on a competitive bidding basis. So no need to create an extra infrastructure. Only developer can be allowed to develop the solar and renewable energy, and same time this energy can be done on the net billing basis, which is I think 24 or 25 states has already agreed to. Some of them are really not implementing, 6-7 has already implemented. And the best part is now the problem which will arise is the quality of power, because it is an unbalanced load, and being an unbalanced load, it creates a lot of harmonics, and state electricity boards or DISCOM has already started imposing penalty on this. So my suggestion is that we can go for a competitive tariff, which is very well available and very well affordable nowadays. No need to create a separate grid. We can have up to the TSS level connections and go for operation and maintenance privatization of these assets, because that will really make the assets every time you can say ready, hot standby, and availability of them will drastically improve. The quality of TSS, their maintenance and everything will be in a much better shape for all SP, SSP, TSS. So that was my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. God. We hear you. So no separate grid, but competitive tariff and O&M of the assets created. Thank you. I think just conscious of the time, we started a bit late and we'll have to wrap up soon. So I'll just ask one more question to Mr. Pradeep Kumar, and then I think we'll have to close the session. Mr. Kumar, there have been various conversations of monetizing the dedicated freight corridors once they start generating a steady stream of revenue. So, in your opinion, will that be possible? And what can be the strategies or models to monetize the DFCs?
Thank you. Yeah, actually, this is being talked about. Yes, you are right. But it may take some time to firm up as to how the monetization of DFC assets has to be done. Right now, our focus is on to completion of the project by June 2022. As somebody was telling that it was supposed to be completed by 2012, but because of various reasons, it could not be done. But now it is being monitored very regularly by Honorable MR, and we are definitely going to complete it by June 2022. Regarding this monetization, one could be monetization of 10 paths. That is a little easier job, as we are doing in for private train operators. There that 150 routes we are that path is being monetized. We are collecting tax access charges, and then those can be then the private operators can invest in the in the wagons, and with their maintenance also they can do, and then they can run their train. So that could be one of the way of monetizing of the FC. Then we are also creating a lot of freight terminals. So their operations and maintenance that can be privatized. That can be that can also be monetized, and we are also there's also talk of asset monetizing using InvIT model, although we haven't yet decided anything on that, because it becomes a little difficult. But yes, we are planning. We are still we were thinking of how to monetize DFC assets using InvIT model. So all these things are under discussion, and we will come to some conclusion quite soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. I think asset monetization is going to be an important theme for the entire infrastructure sector as well. And unfortunately, I think we have run out of time. We have had such a distinguished panel of 7 industry stalwarts. We would have loved to continue, but I think the next panel is waiting for their chance. So once again, sincere thanks to all panel members for joining and to FICCI for hosting us at this forum. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Akshay.
Akshay. I'll just take it from here for a bit. A truly very engaging session. We apologize for the delay, but that was something which was not in our control. Extremely grateful to Pradeep ji, again, Sir DK, SK Chaudhary ji for joining us today. Mr. Khare and Mr. Lohia both had accommodated. Thank you enough. मुझे तो है भी नहीं दिल्ली में आज. My office bearer, Sailesh Pathak ji, Mr. Rakesh Gaur ji, thank you very much for joining. And last but not the least, our moderator for the day, Akshay, thank you very much for so beautifully conducting the session and also being mindful of the time. With this, we immediately move on to the second session for today. And I request all the panelists to please switch on their cameras and join us for this. The second session is manufacturing in railways, opportunities under Atmanirbhar Bharat vision. Session opportunities in rolling stock, coach building, components, amongst the other measures to be undertaken for self-reliant India. As a panelist, we have Mr. L.C. Trivedi, General Manager, East Central Railways and North Eastern Railways, Indian Railways. Mr. Sandeep Fuller, Chief Operating Officer, Titagarh Wagons Limited. Mr. A.K. Chandra, Executive Director, Mechanical and Transformation Cell, the Railway Board. Mr. Subrat Nath, Managing Director, Talgo India. And Mr. Achal Puri, Business Head, Railways, Metro, Omax Auto. This session will be moderated by a very distinguished Mr. Devinder Sandhu, who's an independent consultant and former country representative at the Executive Board of the World Group. Mr. Sandhu, I leave the session with you, and please be mindful of the time since we're already running late. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Neerja. This is a really wonderful opportunity to speak to some of the rail leaders who are going to move forward with the Prime Minister's vision. What time? Till what time do we have, Neerja, on the clock?
You have 1 hour.
Okay.
You can bring it to 45 minutes. That will be great, but depending on how.
Yes, of course. Happy to do that. So I think if we go back to May of last year, when Honorable Prime Minister announced the Atmanirbhar Bharat program, a large part of it came as COVID relief. A number of government programs were tightened, sort of put together in a implementable framework, looking at a quick 3 to 4 years kind of horizon. And a large sum of 20 lakh crores is part of that. But and all of you know the details. But I think the fundamental point is that as old supply chains start being re-examined, where there are concentration risks in global supply chains in a particular country or in a particular region, and therefore the need to diversify them and take them nearer to consumption and production centers, and the desire of the government of India to make sure that we are able to take advantage out of that. Five sort of pillars that were seen in that program when it was announced in March, and subsequently the finance minister has held no less than five major press conferences delineating various parts of the program over a period of time. But I think the first, of course, is the pillar of the economy itself, where we do realize that our $5 trillion GDP has been impacted by the COVID pandemic. And therefore, what all do we need to do to make sure that our economy goes on track? One of the largest populations in the world, and we have around 10 million of our youth who join the job market every year. We have seen jobless growth as a problem for some time. And therefore, if this year is going to add more to that, then we have a large number of youth looking for jobs. And therefore, good jobs for our youth, and at the same time, expansion in our GDP are the two fundamentals of that economy pillar. Then, of course, is infrastructure, where today we are discussing railways, and we discussed that in the initial session too. Clearly, one of the core and strategic infrastructures of the country. And how strategic? I mean, I've always been saying, in all my sort of postings everywhere, whether it was at the World Bank or whether at the Prime Minister's office, how critical. I mean, you can't defend this country without the Indian Railways. You can't hold elections without Indian Railways. The public distribution system, the fertilizer to farmers, major infrastructure projects that need all kind of support from movement of raw materials, right down to the railway serving underserved areas, opening up inner India to development. I think it's a completely strategic infrastructure that we are having, and therefore within that the railways holds a very important picture. If you see the national infrastructure pipeline, the railways is coming in with a share of nearly 25% of the total expenditure that the national infrastructure pipeline puts in place. But the important part, I think, is that this pillar of the infrastructure that the Prime Minister has envisaged and that we've all been discussing now and being part of the implementing machine. I think the most important thing is an infrastructure that fits for the future. One problem that all of us have seen in the Indian economy, that we're always behind the demand curve in infrastructure. And some part of that conversation happened in the first session also, where there is a clear need for the public sector to grasp its role and make sure that infrastructure is made ahead of time. If I look at the railways, and when I look at stations like Churchgate, or look at stations like Old Delhi, or Delhi Main as it used to be called, I think if we see that these structures were built a century ago and still had the capacity to ramp up to 10 or 15 times, I think that's the kind of vision that Atmanirbhar Bharat proposes for us in our infrastructure building, and especially for the railways, which I said is a very strategic core infrastructure that India possesses. So I think that's the kind of thought that we need to go ahead with, and share some of our understandings on how we want to move forward on this vision that the nation has adopted for itself. So this is a great panel. Thank you so much, Mr. Trivedi, General Manager of ECR, and I believe now also looking after NER, and Mr. Chandra from the Railway Board. We have Sandeep Fuller, we have Achal Puri, and all of you are, and Subrat, all of you are forward drivers of this industry as we go forward in all the organizations that you lead. A lot of expectations that all of us have had from you. So I'm also a former civil servant and from the railways. So hierarchy is very important. But I think let me go directly to the railway board and ask Mr. Chandra a question that is looming large in the mind of all of us and some of our clients who we are advising on the private train operation also. So how do you see the Atmanirbhar vision and mission being driven as part of the private train operation initiative of Indian Railways? So much interest from a number of bidders being mentioned all over the world about how you want to move forward. So I think it's great if we can hear from you how you're moving forward on Atmanirbhar Bharat in the private train operation.
Thank you, Mr. Sandhu. Trivedi Saab ko namaskar. He is my senior in the service, and namaskar to all friends. In fact, private train operation was envisaged to bring in new technology and bring it in quickly. Transfer of technology in the government sector has been very slow. As you might be knowing, Mr. Sandhu, you have been a railway man. The LHB technology came in the country in about in 1990s. The first coach was produced from RCF in the year 2000. So real production actually picked up after 2009. So the kind of time that we spent in adopting and proliferating a new technology was awfully large in government sector, and it always happens. It is not the first time. Whenever there has been a technology transfer project, it has taken a lot of time. So to bring in a futuristic technology and bring it in quickly, we had to go in for something which was never done in the Indian Railways, and that is why this private train operation was envisaged. The operators are independent to bring in whatever technology they want to bring. It is a technology agnostic project, number one. We are stressing only on, we have been requesting and demanding only the output, that yes, we want this type of ride index, we want these type of comforts, we want these type of safety features. So rolling stock could be anything from anywhere, but the technology should be at least the best what we have today in the country. And what we have today in the country is Vande Bharat, जिसके the founder and basically the person who actually made it come true is Mr. Trivedi, who is sitting on this panel today. So private train operation, as you rightly said, it has garnered a lot of interest from all the sectors. There are a lot of players in the fray. The RFP is likely to open on 31st of March. We had earlier scheduled it for 31st of January, but the dates had to be extended on the request of bidders. We already had 4 rounds of discussion with bidders, and the bidders have taken very keen interest. The kind of queries that they have been putting to us, that only emphasizes their interest in the project. So yes, we are hopeful of success of this project, as well as we are hopeful of getting in new technology and getting it in quickly. About 25% of the rakes the private operators can bring in from outside if they are importing the rolling stock. Remaining, they will have to manufacture here in the country. So that is another step towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. The technology that we don't have today, if they are coming with those technologies, they are bringing in those technologies, they will be free to bring in those technologies, but ultimately they will have to create the facility to manufacture those technology here. I hope this answers your question, Mr. Sandhu.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think you've laid out well, because clearly this is a path that is a longer term path, because if you're looking at inducting rolling stock assets with life cycles of 20, 25, 30 years, then both the private sector as well as the Indian Railways will have to remain committed to a longer term relationship.
Yes.
And one thing that we all, sometimes slip up on as custodians of the public sector is that we sort of think uh, in a contractor mold. But my sort of feeling is, as you rightly said, we need to understand that whoever is going to be a bidder on the PTO is actually a partner. So it is kind of a partnership between the infrastructure asset owner, which is the Indian Railways providing access, and then somebody who's bringing in rolling stock and running it. I think that's a perspective that we need to go forward with. Thank you so much for that. And can I request Sri L.C. Trivedi, now who's been really part of the Vande Bharat, the whole program, along with a lot of other colleagues, to really let us know about that program, because that is clearly the most advanced program in terms of rolling stock as far as Vande Bharat, as far as Atmanirbhar Bharat goes. How did we localize? How do we go forward? And I would also request you to share, your achievements out of the two railways under your charge, ECR and NER, at this point of time.
Thank you, Fiti and Sandhu. At the outset, I would like to share that we have about 30,000 crore plus RSP, rolling stock program, which gets converted into manufacturing either in government sector, railway sector, or private sector. In fact, all our wagons which we use on Indian Railways, 350,000 around that, they are manufactured primarily in India's private sector. There are four types of productions which are taking place in the country. There are railway workshops, production units. Then there are ancillary units, which are like when we make Vande Bharat Express, or we make LHB coaches, or we make any rolling stock, the side panels, the springs, the brake system, the end panels, whatever is comes. In fact, including Vande Bharat, the content was more than 90% Indian, one or the other Indian form. Then we have another successful example of Marora and Madhepura. Marora by Webtech and Madhepura by Alstom. Now we have already started using Madhepura. Marora has manufactured about 400 plus diesel locomotives. Madhepura has also, I think, recently crossed century of locomotive production, and they are already in active use. So the PPP sort of model has also proved successful in the Indian context. Then we have private sector totally making for the private sector, like Alstom facility in Chennai, supplying cars, train sets to Chennai Metro. In fact, they were supplying to Australian Metro also. Similarly, Bombardier's facility at Baroda, which not only caters to the indigenous demand, it also caters to the demand overseas. One new thing has emerged recently, which many people are not aware of, I think, is that the fast changing scenario in the freight sector. Now, certainly we have increased our proportion of automobiles carried by railways and auto carriers. Auto carriers are being built either by converting our ICF coaches into NMG coaches, also by specialized auto carriers which can carry 7 to 8 cars in one wagon. And we have been carrying these automobiles to Bangladesh, Nepal, and other countries, and it has proved to be a very cheap sort of transportation of automobiles. Similarly, the whole concept of the cargo movement is undergoing a change. From the bagged like cement, move in a bag form. Now there is a subsidiary of ACC called BCC, Bulk Cement Corporation. Now they carry the cement in a tank wagon, and there are silos at the factory, there are silos at the consumers, and then there are the bullets mounted on the trucks which take the cement along to the point of consumption where the mortar is poured, and the time taken from in the transit from the silo at the good shed to the point is utilized for mixing the mortar. So that's a very highly efficient way of using cement, which brings down the cost of the whole construction industry. Similarly, for the food grain, we are having again bullet wagons. For fly ash, we are having bullet wagons with a similar concept. Now, these are the new types of rolling stock, which so far were not manufactured, but now there is a great demand to manufacture these specialized type of wagons in the country, and our own industry brothers are doing this in India. You must have noticed recently, government is emphasizing Kisan Rail. Now, when we use right now, we are only using normal wagons for Kisan Rail, but there is a requirement of refrigerated uh, parcel vans which can carry the perishable vegetables and other commodities to the place of consumption, bringing prosperity to the farmers and lower cost to the consumer. So these are all new things which are happening in the railway sector, which is providing and fortunately, including the Vande Bharat Express. In fact, you have seen that recently the Vande Bharat tender has also been awarded to Meda for 2,200 crores. So this is Meda is an Indian company. It's a Hyderabad-based company, and uh, apart from this electric, all other items like brake system, the shell components, the furnishing components which goes into it. And Mr. Sandhu, you will be surprised that the cost of a Vande Bharat coach, which was manufactured in ICF, was 6 crore against the prevalent cost in world market of around 10 crores. So we are not only capable of making in within India world class project, we can almost make it at 30 or 40% cheaper than the global prices and be a competitive globally. Thank you very much.
That's very heartening to hear, of course. And as Indians, we're all proud of the work that was done in bringing that train on the tracks, and the fact that it's discharged its duty well, it's maintaining its speeds. Any hiccups that were there in the beginning are very normal as part of these large projects. But after those initial hiccups were sorted out, the entire consists have been running very well. Also, very good response from the people as citizens. They're happy, and I think it's always good to take a challenge on and trying to say that I'm going to improve your traveling experience and make a commitment on that, and then that sort of acts as a reverse pressure on ourselves to make sure that we live up to those words. I'll come back to you again, Mr. Trivedi, on taking your views on localization as the program progresses. But I think you mentioned about the 350,000 wagons on Indian Railways, and I think Sandeep plays a major role out of Titagarh on the freight side. And I was also looking up yesterday, they also have plans on the passenger stock. At least that's what I could see, that they're coming out with those plans for futuristic travel, but also about freight. So Sandeep, how would you like the government to facilitate you? I mean, you've got the railway board, and you got Mr. Trivedi, one of the railway leaders. And how do you think the private sector can be facilitated to bring the best technologies both in freight as well as in passenger rolling stock?
Well, thank you, Mr. Sandhu, and my co-members on the panel. Before I start talking about the facilitation and all, I would just like to put one across. COVID has been a very positive pressure on the Atmanirbhar vision. Reason for that, if you ask me, is because with COVID, a lot of boundaries between nations became more severe. Transfer of material, transfer of manpower, everything became more severe. And the same thing transpired into a pressure on the Atmanirbhar philosophy. I believe it was a blessing in disguise. And, as we typically believe in India, or rather in our philosophy, everything has a positive to it. So Atmanirbhar is perhaps the positive of COVID, if you ask me. Now, coming to the wagon sector, Mr. Trivedi has talked about a lot of type of uh, items which are being moved by the wagons. I have been actively involved with the car carrying wagons for quite some time to stabilize them. And the current design of car carrying wagons, which is being manufactured and put on the system, are capable of carrying up to 12 normal small cars, which are common in the Indian market, and capable of traveling consistently at 80 kilometers per hour. As a result, a majority of the car companies have started looking at a hub and spoke model. And as per my information, which was shared with me by some of the car carriers, they have been able to take away more than 17 to 18% of the cars from the roads to the rails. Of course, the best would be that at least 50 to 60% of them move. Besides this, specialized wagons, but even in specialized need wagons which have multiple users. I can give you one example of a wagon which has been made and which is currently being manufactured, which is the modified alumina tank wagon, which has been modified to the extent that it can carry a higher axle load, and in one direction it carries fly ash, and in another direction it carries cement. So it also a very good development, but let me assure you that the total development is done in India only. Of course, the future of the wagons perhaps will be to make them more fuel efficient. And in order to make them fuel efficient, you have to make their tear weights lower. So I feel that perhaps aluminium wagons, which are in use in a number of parts, continue to increase in India in a big way. Uh, Coming to the passenger sector, and let me tell you that at Titagarh we have big plans for this sector because we have a subsidiary in Italy called Titagarh Firema, which specializes in supplying of train sets, high-speed trains, and metros. And we are making our first metro project, which is the Pune Metro. Now, if I come to Pune Metro, it has a number of firsts to itself. And one of the biggest first Pune Metro coach is the first in India to be made out of aluminium. Aluminium we perceive is the metal. We expect that aluminium will be utilized for all, and therefore bringing aluminium and aluminium technology is essential for the country. Other changes which have been upgradations which have been done to this metro. Some of the changes which I can tell you about that the passenger comfort is enhanced, the passenger safety is enhanced, and the door systems and all are having very interesting features like anti-drag feature, a capability where even before the train sets into movement keeps going to the driver so that no person ends up getting dragged by the train. Similarly, on the safety side, we have introduced a new feature of fire safety, where we are doing infrared sensing so that we detect when the sensing is done using smoke. However, having said all that, I would still like to mention that there are a large number of things which we need to do to become really Atmanirbhar in this field. Some of the prominent items which we are focusing on is the propulsion system, where we are planning to do the entire design and manufacturing of the propulsion system in India. As a matter of fact, we have set up a parallel, we have a design center in Italy, and we have set up a parallel design center in Hyderabad, which we intend to man with about 40 professionals from the railway industry for rolling stock. So, looking at how to demystify the other components and do a make in India of various items, electronic items like the public address system, the fire detection system. We are obviously working on all of these. And let me tell you that Atmanirbhar push is going to help us a big way in coming up with the next generation of various metros, which is you can see the metro light, which in our opinion we will be manufacturing 100% in India. Maybe 4-5% we may have to import certain components, but that's about all. And in a similar manner, I would also like to add that there will be the private train operators who will be giving a different experience to the passengers. As Mr. Chandra mentioned, that you needed an upgraded experience to the passengers, and we are very seriously working on making this experience totally out of India. So, in a way, what I would like to say is that what we're working on is Atmanirbhar Bharat is one of the key phrases coined for the nation, and it is one of the key phrases which we at Titagarh have taken upon. Gradually, each and every technology we will bring into the country and we will improve upon it. And after some time, maybe we will be source out of India in the field of rolling stock. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. I mean, this is, of course, you've taken us on a ride, and we're really looking forward to this work. And I couldn't agree with you more about aluminium. I mean, in a world where we are even going to have electric vehicles, we need to use maybe less steel in all our rolling stock, whether it's even auto components or railways, because I mean that's a clear win there for our energy demands. The more aluminium we use and replace it from steel, I think that makes so much more sense. Also, the fact that you're talking of multi-use wagons, bulk commodity in one direction, then fly ash that doesn't fly out, the wagon can be covered, or even bagged commodities. And of course, you took me back many years, more than 2 decades, when I was the network head of Indian Railways at New Delhi, and we introduced that stock for carrying autos, which used to be called NMG, which was essentially the condemned passenger coaches. We brought them back into service. But I think we come a far away from there. And thank you so much for sort of sharing your vision of how we go forward on all these aspects. Subrat, can I request you to come in now and let us know how Talgo is coming into India, what promises you are making for Atmanirbhar Bharat, localization of content, and your excitement at the whole private train operation and your potential markets here. So happy to hear that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sandhu. Distinguished panelists, it was really encouraging to listen. It's normally always encouraging to listen. I know all of you personally, so I was really impressed to listen to Mr. Chandra and Mr. Trivedi. Mr. Chandra, because about the whole plan and how they are going to Indian Railway is going to roll out this private train operation, the plans which look so promising. And in the other hand, listening to Mr. Trivedi, where he just explained that why India is the place, and that is really interesting. That you can manufacture world-class products here, and you can reduce the price by 30 to 40%. You can put the manpower that is required and deliver on time. So this is very exciting. Not only just because what is right now that Make in India plan for India, but also looking at the future, that we should also look at being the manufacturing hub and exporting these world-class products out from here, which will be very soon we'll be doing it. In many other sectors, we are doing it. In railway also, we are doing it, but we have still a way to go there, and we can for sure do it. So India has been a very interesting market for Talgo. Talgo has been very bullish about India, looking at the sheer size of it. And secondly, the product that we have to offer, we always believe that this is the market. And for this reason, we got detrained to do the trial runs in 2016. And after the trial runs, the best part was that we got to know a lot about Indian Railway. And with those knowledge, we have been working on making a product for India, which is going to be very helpful now, because now that the project of private operation is coming up, and in the beginning, to be honest, even I was not very sure that what kind of response it was going to get. But as the potential operators started approaching us and asking us, and the way they put the questions forward, which says that they're doing a lot of homework, and they're putting consultants, people who are working, framing the questions for them, you see that they're spending a lot of money. So if they're spending a lot of money, they're serious. Otherwise, they will not be spending money. So it has been very encouraging for us. And the interesting part for us is that with the experience we had during the trial runs, we had the knowledge that what kind of train is required for India. So we started working on finalizing the design. So more or less, the design is almost ready. Still, there are work has to be done, and then work will be there till the last date. I think everybody here is more experienced than me, so I don't have to tell that till you win the tender and you know exactly how you are going to distribute the class, economy, business, or executive. You don't have the final train, so it will go on till the last date. But more or less, we are ready with the design. So what this design is going to bring? So first, for the operator, because they will be our clients here. For the operators, we are going to offer a train that will consume less, will be very competitive in price, and will be very quick to load and unload. So this is the these are the things which would be interesting from the operator's point of view. Whereas for Indian Railway, this will be a lightweight train that is going to damage very less the tracks of Indian Railway. So like 1100, 1200 passenger capacity train may weigh like 600 tons. Complete train, so it's going to damage the tracks less, and for the passengers, it's going to be safe train. The trains are going to be cleaner, hygienic, safe, comfortable. So all those things will change the experience. Apart from rest all the things like audio video system and everything that of course will be as per the demand of the operator, but everything will be there on the train. So it's going to change the whole experience. And then why India? It's not only because we can reduce the cost. India has been attractive because of many reasons. So the first reason for which India has been very attractive for us is the availability of manpower and professionally qualified manpower. Here you can get really talented manpower at very good price. So that's very important comfort. And secondly, India is between two parts. Like in one side, you have the Southeast Asia, like Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, all these countries, Vietnam, till Australia, New Zealand, and in other side you have the whole Middle East and till Europe. So and also down Africa. So the location of India is very interesting, and not every country is ready to pay the European costs. So it's always interesting to have a manufacturing facility in India, so that you don't lose on those markets being an European company. So for all these reasons, we have been always looking forward to come to India. But of course, there was no business sense without having an order here to set up a factory and then do it for some other countries. And the advantage of having a project in India is that normally the size of projects are really big. So those projects directly justify the investment in any factory. So with a project in hand, as the private operation is coming up, you set up a factory which justifies the investment, and then from there on, you have a factory that you can use for the rest of the world to export from here. And I also see that once we have this high-speed corridor of Mumbai-Ahmedabad, we will see its advantages. We will have more high-speed corridors, and of course, this corridor, we know that the conditions that the Japanese government offer, it's not easy for any other government to offer those kind of conditions. But I assume that going forward, there will be tenders, and now we are always happy to participate in tenders because we are capable of offering a very competitive price and a very competitive and innovative product. So and second, lastly is about the aluminium. Like everybody is talking about aluminium. Of course, is the future for India. Aluminium, because lightweighting is the key. Because lightweighting is the key to reduce carbon footprint and to reduce the energy consumption. And also the metal itself, for a country like India, we have places which are deserted with dust storms, we have torrential rains, we have floods. So in all those conditions, to have a aluminium train is the need of for this country, considering all these things, and which is 100% recyclable. You hardly lose anything when you recycle aluminium. So uh, we are the pioneers in aluminium trains, and we are very happy that the sector is looking forward to it. So that's it. Meaning that is our plan for India, and that is what we are planning to offer. So if there is any question, I am happy to answer, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Subrat. Always good to listen to your plans and the excitement that you sort of bring to your conversations. I'll come back to you when we have time again regarding the fact that India is a technically enabled country in terms of manpower capacity, and to understand whether you will be building up a design establishment within India itself, so that we can file our patents right from here. But let me now go to Achal. Achal, Omax, of course, is a big boy, literally, in terms of multi-ton, kind of applications that the Indian Railways depends on you for. So what are your thoughts on taking this forward in an Atmanirbhar India?
Yeah, first of all, I thank you and Fiki team. I've been personally working on some projects with Mr. Trivedi, and been interacting closely with Mr. Chandra. And a lot of insights have come from him on the future of railways. As an organization and as an individual, my thoughts come across when we talk of Atmanirbhar Bharat. If we take our journey to 2009, and we used to travel abroad and see the condition of coaches there, whether it is trains or metro. And we used to have a visual thinking that how we can bring it down to India. Probably at that point of time, the word Atmanirbhar Bharat was also not that popular or visible, which is as of now in the present situation. Coming back to the present scenario, as India is gearing up for creating the infrastructure, and most probably all the participants have observed this are from the complete coach supplier side or complete shell or loco supplier side. I probably represent the segment of the industry which is a kind of ancillary service providers, and I want to ensure the industry from this forum, whether it is railways or the metro industry, that as complete initiatives are coming in terms of food manufacturing, good ancillary units are also happening around, whether it is the metro locations or it is the railway production locations. For example, we as a group have been major into auto sector, and for the last around 9 years we are into railways, supplying components like underframes or end walls to Indian Railways for their LHP coaches and earlier the other one conventional coaches. Taking forward, we found the opportunity in creating an environment wherein the needs and the want and the desires of the customer, which is the end user, which as I shared in 2009, I probably felt when I used to travel abroad, are to be met. And on similar parlance, the needs for the industry in terms of ancillary units are also to be met as the industry is growing and the requirement for metro as well as railway coaches is growing. Taking that initiative, our management, our chairman, Mr. Jitendra Mehta, and our CEO, Mr. Devashish, Mr. Sunil Kakadiya, we were mulling on an idea like how we can contribute in terms of giving best quality components to the railway coaches. In addition to, as I told, the underframes that we are doing, we have set up a new factory in Raebareli with an investment of roughly around 150 crores. That is for making sidewall and roof for the coaches. And an important input for Mr. Fuller as well as Mr. Subrat Nath. The infrastructure is world class, and the equipment we have bought is the 9th generation, the latest technology, and this touchless system. And this will probably ensure that the infrastructure is such well developed that we can also cater to the stainless steel fabrication as well as the aluminum fabrication. And the quality can be matched across the world. So that is, we as an organization have taken the initiative that we make investments and set up an ancillary facility, and gradually also we can move towards complete coach fabrication, wherein we give the industry who are setting up their facilities in India or who already have systems in place but want once their expansion or their requirements grow up, we are there to serve those requirements in addition to the Indian Railway requirements. We were setting up their facilities or already have system in place, but want once their expansion or their requirements grow up, we are there to serve those requirements in addition to the The voice is not clear. Can you please?
Others may please switch off their mics. Those who are not speaking, they may kindly switch off their mics. Then we'll have clear voice.
Yeah, touching on one aspect, this aspect as I've shared is that we have created an infrastructure wherein the increase in demand and growth, which is going to happen in the coach side as well as the metro side, and also which, as was shared by my colleagues here, Mr. Subrat Nath, regarding aluminum and the scope. So infrastructure that we have set up is capable to handle both stainless steel as well as aluminum fabrication. So that is one aspect that we have tried to create towards making India Atmanirbhar. In addition to that, we are also tinkering on new technology projects. We have an in-house R&D team, which is presently around 30 members. And this is basically catering to like a lot of products we see are getting imported in terms of which are electromechanical items or some new initiatives that Indian Railways envisages, like it is presently the water closet system is going on, or dampers are one requirement which are going to grow for locomotives in the metro. These are the few initiatives that we are taking, and trying to bring to the table the advancement in technology, availability of it right now in India, and very well connectivity with the location that we have. Like my plant is in nearest to Raebareli in MCA. In addition to this, we have also getting, as I told, to the auto sector, and also for PV sector for railways. We have set up another plant in Raebareli itself, wherein we are making CRF sections for the industry, and it is again on a world-class machine and world-class facility, which qualifies to all the global standards. And with these initiatives, we think that as we gradually build up our infrastructure, and as the need of these products increase, we are there to serve the industry and serve Indian Railways for all their critical and important requirements. And with the R&D setup that we are also well equipped and geared up to take up new product opportunities, considering the Indian conditions and Indian requirements of the import substitute that we want to create in India. That's what I want to put across to you.
Thank you, Achal. These are remarkable programs, but sort of talk of the industry voice, and let me go back to the Railway Board and Mr. Chandra. The government announced a major productivity-linked insurance scheme of nearly 150,000 crores. Somehow the railway sector seems to be missing from that government scheme.
Could you please repeat your
The cabinet has recently approved 10 sectors with a productivity-linked investment scheme (PLI) of 150,000 crores approximately. Being such an important industry and such an important core infrastructure of the country, one would have really liked to see some amount of funding out of that come to the railway sector also. And in some sense, I'm speaking on behalf of Sandeep, Subrat, and Achal here. I mean, there are some elements you can say specialty steels or components, etc. But I think considering how important the railways is for the country, maybe an earmarked part of the PLI should have been advocated, and I think I would request to hear your thoughts on that. I think industry would be very happy to know that. Your modal competitor, which is the roads, auto sector, they get 40% of the total PLI allocation at some 57,000 crores. So, this is a request, and your thoughts on this, how we can get PLI for railway industry manufacturers.
You'll be thanks for putting up this question, because productivity has always been at the forefront of our plans for the manufacturing rolling stock companies. During last 10 years, we had in fact reduced the real price of coaches that we manufacture in our production units. As compared to 2009-10, if we adjust the price to wholesale price index, taking wholesale price index into account, we had recently done this calculation. The cost today, the price today is about 43% less than what it used to be in 9-10 for the AC coaches. So, and the number of staff has gone down by almost 25%. In we have 8 production units, as you are a railman, you know very well. 3 for locomotives and 3 for coaches, 2 for wheels, and DMW, which has now started manufacturing. It was earlier manufacturing components only, but now they have started manufacturing locomotives also. So productivity, from railways, we do give productivity linked bonus to our staff in production units. Production units are covered by 2 types of incentive scheme that we have in railways. One is called CLW pattern, that is internal to railways. Other is group incentive scheme. So whatever new production units or workshops are coming, if at all we have to give in incentive, we are giving group incentive scheme. So incentive scheme as such is already there. How to calculate it, how to benchmark the productivity, how to judge the product based on the how to judge the number based on the productivity. So all these are very well defined and exist in railways. So we are definitely a very strong contender for, we will be a strong contender for that productivity linked incentive that government has announced. And we will definitely put forward our case very strongly. It is to be seen that how much we succeed, but we will definitely try for that. I'm not getting your voice. आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है मिस्टर संधू. हाँ.
Yeah, there is sometimes an issue on the network. I said thank you so much because the industry would really look forward to that. And Nirja, I think FICCI has an agenda here in putting up a base paper on what part of the PLI, we can get for the railway-related industries and manufacturers. A number of them being on this panel itself. Let me go back to Mr.
Before you complete, Devinder, I'll just like to share this information. Our size of manufacturing sector is about 40,000 crores a year. Yesterday only I got a rolling stock program approved from the minister for the budget, upcoming budget. So our size of manufacturing for the next year is very optimistic. Our planned capacity is only 5,000 coaches, against which we are planning to manufacture more than 8,000 coaches. So we have ambitious plan for manufacturing, and the partner industries or the related industries, they have reasons to be happy about that. Let us hope that we succeed in our endeavor. Thank you.
I'm sure with your pushing, this is going to be great and excellent to sort of listen to this from the other side of the table. Yeah. I was wanting to go back to Mr. Trivedi and check out what he considers as the localization issues. And one part on that, for example, which is a fact that is known, is that sometimes people are replacing imported parts simply by going through another supplier. So the supplier is somebody who's importing, and since I'm putting an invoice on an Indian company, that becomes localized. But actually, if I see the supply chain, it's really not sort of made in India in that sense. And so, what is your experience, and how we can make sure that localization actually occurs?
Mr. Sindhu, first of all, you must have heard that now government is in a focused manner not allowing the Chinese companies, which were the main culprit in this area. They were putting up a front company, and then the companies were channelizing their imports from China and dressing it up as a Atmanirbhar Bharat. And that was the, in fact, major complaint of the industry. So at least the floodgates of the cheap imports, which were not always of the top quality, have stopped. As regards the European manufacturers, what I have found that many of them are setting up plants in the country. Our automatic door closing system in Vande Bharat Express, the propulsion system, in fact, the Medha has collaborated with TSA of Austria, and all the electrics and propulsion system, they have taken the technology from there and making it in India. Vande Bharat Express, the bogie design, we engaged Polish consultants and manufactured the component and the bogie here. In fact, the Alstom, Webtech, all are manufacturing, and good part is that our Indian manufacturers, the total 100%, they are learning from these foreign collaboration setup. And what I experienced at ICF as the principal chief mechanical engineer, that we started with a German firm, we started with an Italian firm, and we used to play, as per our railways policy, 10% or 20% developmental orders on some Indian firm. And no sooner, it used to take them maximum 2 to 3 years that the Indian company will come up in the matter of quality up to their European counterpart, and will offer at the same time the same product at 30 to 40% at a cheaper rate. So And as we have heard that with this 40,000 crore manufacturing taking place, which is almost 6 billion US dollar. And if I try to, in fact, if you see, the only thing, the substantial amount which we are importing today are the LHB forged wheel sets. LHB forged wheel sets is the only single major component. Otherwise, or maybe some special types of steel, but in a very small manner. And the one thing which we are lacking right now is the aluminum fabrication technology. In fact, if somebody wants my advice that where he should put his buck, I would say that the aluminum fabrication, welding, converting the ingots into the panels and the extrusions, there lies the future. Because as Mr. Fuller said, that aluminum means lesser weight, lesser fuel, lesser wear on the track. So that is a future area where right now I don't find us capable Indian entity doing anything about it. So forged wheels and the aluminum extrusions and aluminum fabrication is the area where our local vendors, local industry has to catch up.
Thank you so much for that. This is, of course, very enlightening. And so, Sandeep, here's a challenge for you. How do you react? Are we ready for aluminum fabrication?
We are aluminum fabrication, and as Trivedi Saab said, initially there were a lot of questions raised about being able to do it in India, but let me assure you that within the next 6 months, you will see my first aluminum coach rolling out. And nothing is better than the actual product.
That's great.
That's great. That's great to hear, Sandeep. And Subrat, I mentioned the question for you. Localization also means setting up roots here. So will we see Talgo filing patents from Indian offices and having a design center here?
Uh, Thank you very much for the question. Just let me go back a bit to this aluminum part because that is very important for me. So yeah, like Mr. Trivedi said, I agree 100% with him. And I will like to congratulate Mr. Fuller for this. But we need many companies who can really do aluminum fabrication and aluminum extrusions, especially meaning 100% making the aluminum extrusion and then being able to making out parts of trains or passenger coaches or coaches from it. So there is a challenge, and we need to work on that. And whoever comes into this field will have a huge market open for him. So then going back to your question now, yeah. Just for your information, we are a small company in comparison to our competitors. Normally, because our competitors are into many other fields, like Siemens, Alstom, Hitachi. They're not only making trains; they're making different things. We are a company, small company. We are only focused in long distance and high speed train, and close to 30% of our manpower is into R&D. And all of them they sit in Spain. So it's a big part and most critical part of us. We call ourselves an engineering innovative company more than a manufacturing company. So of course it's interesting for us to be able to bring our R&D completely to India, and that is the plan. But it will not happen very quickly. Right now we have started phase wise bringing the work to India, and we have started doing it with some partners. And why with some partners is the same reason, because we are a small company, so we prefer to come with partners. Same for the manufacturing also. We'll be comfortable coming with a partner to India, for which we are already in discussion. So similarly for R&D also, we are in discussion with some of the top companies of India, and a part of the work is already getting done here. But as the local partners get confidence, slowly more critical things will start coming to India. As we discussed earlier, that India has no dearth of trained manpower and talented manpower. So if we can do something at 30 to 40% less cost and the same quality, having the possibility to put more people and get the things done faster, then why not? It's interesting for any company anywhere in the world. So we have started it. It's going to take time, but we are on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Subrat. Deja, we're almost sticking to your time.
Yes.
I will like to get Achal because he mentioned an important part, and that is about ancillarization because
With
our
only a
MSMEs,
request to be
yes,
a little brief in interest of time.
yeah, our MSME and ancillaries are very much part of our Bharat Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign with specific focus on them. So how is OMAX working this part out?
See, I'll take the shortest, sweetest time in explaining. See, as I already shared that we have set up an infrastructure envisaging the future growth of the industry. And also, most of the participants in the metro space or the RRTS space are OEM or total coach manufacturers. And already Indian Railways is present in that space. So we are creating a space for ourselves wherein we are able to cater to the requirements and urgent requirements of the companies who want to showcase something in India immediately or want to have a long-term association with us. We are open for that, and I think we are the only company in this space having made an investment of this kind to enable the capability to manufacture both stainless steel as well as aluminum with some minor additional investment in the product. So I think I'm getting more confidence while discussing here that when we took the decision to invest in the infrastructure in near MCF, I think the decision taken by our management, represented by our chairman, Mr. Jitendra Mehta, was on the right track.
Thank you so much, Achal. And so to quickly, sort of wrap up the takeaways that we've all discussed. One, of course, happy news of a large 40,000 crore rolling stock program that has been approved, and so that's good news for the industry. Second, a promise from the Railway Board that they will work to see how the PLI benefits, can be populated amongst railway suppliers. Clearly, a lot of confidence coming in from what Mr. Trivedi has shared out of his experiences in the Vande Bharat manufacture, and also the plans going forward and populating this in the larger rolling stock segment of Indian Railways. And then Sandeep, your promise along with Achal to make sure that we are aluminium ready and ready to answer those challenges. And hopefully one day, as Mr. Trivedi said, even those resets from the LHB as quickly as possible, we are able to do that here. Subrat, we'll hold you to your promise and count the number of IP patents that Talgo will file over the next 2-3 years. But I think all of you, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. This has been a wonderful session, of learning for me and trying to facilitate learning for all our listeners who have joined in. Neerja, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Devinderji. This was truly a thought-provoking session. Thank you all the speakers for joining. Mr. L.C. Trivedi, Mr. A.K. Chandra, Sandeep Fularji, Subrat Naji, Achal Puriji. Thank you for sharing your views with the audience. And last but not the least, Mr. Devinder Sindhuji for bringing in not just your core infrastructure knowledge in place, but also your railway experience. Thank you once again. With this, we move on to business session 3, transforming railways through technology. I request all the panelists for session 3 to please switch cameras. So as I go and introduce the panel, thank you very much. So this session essentially will deliberate upon significance of technological innovations and digitization in enhancing safety and overall efficiency in the sector. To do the honors, we have Mr. L.S. Patil, Executive Chairman, Patil Rail Infrastructure Private Limited. Mr. Mangal Dev, a good friend of Vicky, has been working with us for a very long time, Head of Railway Systems Business, India and South Asia, and Director, Hitachi India Private Limited. Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, Chief Operating Officer, Progress Rail. Mr. Pavandeep Singh Behel, Managing Director, A-Paul Software Systems. And Mr. Giriraj Verma, GM Vaptec Corporation. This session will be moderated by Mr. Nitin Kumar, Director, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Well, Nitin, over to you. Be mindful of the time. Request all the panelists to, because we are on time frame. So over to you, Nitin. You are mute, Nitin.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Nirja. And it's been a very fruitful session so far. And I have been, listening out to the previous sessions, and the way the commitment has come from the various leaders and the government. It's very encouraging as we move forward for railways. And this year has been particularly both tough and exciting and challenging for the railways. And as we connect today with the technology platform, and as the saying goes, and railways have also realized, if you are to be future ready, you have to be technology ready. So thanks for all the panelists for joining today. And our discussion today would be focused upon how technology can help us in enabling a better efficiency during operations, infrastructure creations, and providing services also. And at the same time, helping us in creating a safer and a greener environment around us. With this, I would like to have a brief introduction of the panelists that we have today. Except that I believe from the Hitachi side, we have today represented by Mr. Narendra. And
that's
yeah.
right. Mangal, there were some other appointments, so I'm representing Hitachi today.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Narendra. Welcome all to this session on technology and future rails, how we together gel together to build an efficient railway system. So I will start from the infrastructure creation side and how technology helps us in enabling a good infrastructure creation, and both in terms of the safety and also on the efficiency. And I would like to invite Mr. Patil, and it's a very basic thing, and we all be happy to learn about it from him. That we in a age-old days when I used to be travel around with my father, and he was a government servant, and we kept on posting here and there. So we used to see how much disruptions are there in the railway system. And fortunately, wooden sleepers are now replaced with concrete sleepers, and now we have even composite sleepers. And definitely, I would request Mr. Patil to give us a glimpse about how this technology has helped us in bringing in more efficiency and safety. Yeah. Mr. Patil,
Yeah,
over to you.
hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. Yeah, basically, railway has been making leaps in improving the infrastructure, especially on the railway track side. Now we have a track that is being replaced with higher axle loads. In the last 35 years on the track side, this has been the biggest contribution that has come from the railways to increase the load carrying capacity. So across the country right now, all the rail track infrastructure is being upgraded to 25-ton axle load with new types of sleepers. That is the what we typically call it as wider base. This is also going to reduce the ballast pressure. This is also going to reduce the maintenance on the railway track. So this is something that is happening as we talk now. So this will make the railway future ready for the higher speed trains, what we have been talking about. I think if we quickly recap the last two sessions, we heard from the minister himself the type of capacity building that is going to happen to take care of the future demand of the railway transport. Plus also on the rolling stock side, we heard about so many new rolling stock companies coming up, and also the privatization of the train services. So all this is going to need a lot of innovative technology to manage, because we are going to add so much of rolling stock. We are going to add so many number of kilometers on the railway track network. All this will require very, very smart solution, what we call it as digital solutions. Here I would like to quickly, adding on to the railway track side, to add to the maintenance part, we have to, it is high time that, railway has to go for digitalized way of transforming the railway maintenance, especially on the wayside systems that we have through which we can monitor the rolling stock. Of course, on track monitoring, on board monitoring of the railway track, to go away basically from preventive maintenance to a condition-based maintenance, because availability is going to be another very big challenge with so many new trains, new operators coming. Railway will have no choice because they have to assure them the availability. If any new train operator is going to come and run the trains on the railway infrastructure, he has to be assured about the availability. So this means that, the maintenance practices have to undergo a paradigmic shift. And this can only be done through digital. I don't see anything else that can add and contribute to change this. So just to give you a quick example, right now, we have few products. Patil, through one of its subsidiaries, Sapna Tech, we have a couple of products that are there in the field for the last 15 years. One we call it as Wild, one we call it as HPD, which is hot axle monitoring. So these two products in the last 15 years have proven how significantly the digitalization can help railway reduce their maintenance, make the availability, and also protect the infrastructure. Right? So maintenance, when we talk about maintenance of rolling stock alone, but also the maintenance of the track. So just to give you an example, in 2006 there was an incident where a flat wheel almost damaged 800 kilometers of rail track. Right. So the only way of knowing the flat wheel was through the noise, through some experienced maintenance people realizing that there is a flat wheel. So all these things, all these practices have to be now put to rest, and a time has come to adopt digitalization. I think the railway is on the path. Of course, there is a lot of wish list from the industry, what needs to be done, how to transform it, how to digitally transform railway. There is a challenge that, which we will talk more about in the coming things. But from my side, I think, yes, technology will have a very, very significant role in the O&M, in the operation, management, and availability for the railway system.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Patil. I mean, it's great to hear from you that technology, not only the infrastructure that is very important, but also the operations and maintenance side of the infrastructure, and especially keeping the availability of the assets, and because these assets are basically revenue generating assets for the railways, and which needs to be properly taken care of, both through predictive and the preventive measures. And we all do understand there are pilot studies which are already on by the Indian Railways on this wayside preventive maintenance, certain systems and sensors which are being used as a pilot test case by the Indian Railways. In fact, one of the initiatives of the Indian Railways during these COVID times have been not only to be technology ready in terms of the operations and maintenance, but also scheduling their assets. So in fact, they had tied up with IIT Mumbai how to have a proper operation research sort of a thing, so that you have a zero-based timetabling. We have a proper accounting of how this whole route optimization is being taken through. So that is one area that technology is taking care of. And from Mr. Patil, I would take it off to Mr. Sanjeev from Progress Rail. When we were talking about technology, and it's been one area that not only operation and maintenance of the track infrastructure, but also the operation and maintenance of the rolling stock, which is very critical in making the availability of the whole railway system. And Mr. Sanjeev, I would like to invite you to share your thoughts on this critical aspect. Probably you are mute.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think if you look at the level of assets that Indian Railway has, there are a huge amount of assets. Just by improving maintenance practices, moving from breakdown to preventive or predictive maintenance, I think they will save a huge amount of money just by focusing on that. What we have seen is, in other industries, this all started long back. If you look at the aviation industry, they started long back. You look at oil and gas industry, they started long back. Indian Railway is thinking about digitization now, or using predictive asset management techniques. And most importantly, I mean, the technology is available either in India or in other parts of the world. It is important for us, or for Indian Railways, I would say, to decide how do we deploy that effectively. It's not just having a technology, especially when you get into this space, when you get into digital space, when you get into predictive. models and analytics and things like those. Deployment of technology in the right manner is critical. So what I have seen so far, although Indian Railways is trying to do certain pilot projects here and there, even on the regular tenders that they have been coming up, a traditional approach won't help in this particular space, frankly speaking, when you come to digitization and all that. They have to think through how do they bring in the innovative technology in the right manner. Then if this deployment happens in a piecemeal manner, their traditional model is L1, multiple suppliers, etc., etc. Imagine over a huge infrastructure that exists today, more than 123,000 kilometers of track where this technology can be deployed and other assets, whether it is substations or or the rolling stock, etc. If this is deployed in a disintegrated fashion, in a piecemeal manner, this won't produce the results. So I have my thoughts on that, and would like to share with you some working with Indian Railways to see if we can figure out the right approach on the deployment of this technology. This is what I am mostly worried about. We may end up spending a huge amount of money on this technology, the digital space or monitoring of rolling stock from the yards. We are talking about smart yards. We are talking about HASW. We are talking about wild, etc. So any deployment not done correctly in this particular space will not produce results. That's my thought process. I think we should learn from some other countries, especially Deutsche Bahn and few other railroad operators who have been doing it in a appropriate manner and deploying this modern technology. That's my thought on. A simple thought on this. Deployment is key. The right way, right approach. They have to find out, right procurement models for these kind of things. It could be SaaS, it could be PaaS or whatsoever, but they need to make sure that they can bring in multiple suppliers, but then they need to make sure that they take a holistic and an integrated approach towards predicting it.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Sanjeev. That's a very valid point you have made, and especially in a government procurement process, we do get a lot of time lost in in selection of technology, in selection of a customer, and then the implementation part of it. So that's a challenge. Duly pointed out. In the typical procurement process, identifying the technology I need, the technology, the something that is suited to me, and then procuring a right type of procurement, running a right type of procurement process, if I can say it that way, so that I am able to get the results, results the way it should be done. And, thanks,
frankly speaking, current procurement process, it does not allow for innovation to come in the right manner. It is okay for buying normal products, components. It's okay to have that kind of a procurement process, but if you have to bring in innovation, this is not the right procurement practice that we have today in our government sector.
Yeah, so yeah, thanks, valid point. And in fact, some of the issues which have been brought to earlier also has been not only technology enabling technology within the railway system, but also railways have a typical challenge of giving you the IPR rights also while enabling these technologies into their system, and that's also something worries the industry per se sometimes. Well, moving on from procurement process and the challenges, yes, technology is very important. I would like to hear more from the industry voice. Typically, I will invite Mr. Pawandeep, and this is a very challenge for a government how to actually procure the technology, right type of technology, and the technology which can be further innovated or further implemented throughout a system. And especially keeping Indian Railways perspective, we have a large network, one of we say that the third largest network in the world. How technology enablement can happen? That's some insights if you can share, Mr. Pawandeep. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a ton, Nitin. That's very nice of you. I think this is a very pertinent point that we all need to address, because on one end we have the constraints of the government sector, which is already pretty well developed. I mean, if you look at within Indian Railways, you have the RDSOs, the production units, which are highly capable engineering resources that we have. And I think the right approach towards bringing technology to this segment has to be that we need to partner with these people. And this industry and nodal agency partnership is what will bring out unique solutions, which are open. You know, I'll bring in case the point of the smart coach that we built. Now, while smart coach has been as a term being used and it's been reported in the media, but really the genesis of the smart coach actually originated with a concept paper by RDSO, which we took on. And then it was IIT Kanpur also contributing to it. And then there was a lot of work on it by MCF as well. And finally, we came in as the execution integrating organization, which leveraged the power of IoT technologies in bringing that entire ecosystem together. Now, this is a unique case in point how industry can bring in very open technologies uh, to bring in predictive maintenance. We have been hearing about predictive maintenance since Adam years. It's been the holy grail of all maintenance engineers. But how to do it has been a challenge that very few have been able to answer. And it's only with the participations that I've talked about can a cogent system be brought about. Interestingly, in the last couple of decades, we have had situations and mega trends which have contributed to creation of a ecosystem where predictive maintenance with multilateral collaborations can come about. At the base level, if you notice, in the last couple of decades, we've had GSM technologies, we have LoRaWAN coming in. So wide area networks, which are open protocol based, have come in. So that layer of communication technology exists. On the second layer, very recently, we have had very extensive third-party cloud infrastructure that's been enabled. Now you have processing power, storage available on the fly for the rent. Typically, any large deployment earlier required investments in recruiting the right kind of resources and creating an entire department altogether, which would be slow. So cloud infrastructure with an enabling policy like the Meghraj policy, which makes the government look at cloud before they go into deploying their own resources, that has helped. On top of it, we have innovative sensor systems, we have data collection systems. So if you really notice the entire stack which you need to build cogent applications exists as a third party available infrastructure. Now all it needs is how you bring about an innovative application and plug it in. And this application has to have a problem solving approach which requires all the agencies involved, including the vendor, to come in. I'll give you the example of the smart coach. Now, smart coach integrates data from 5 air conditioning suppliers, 3 brake system suppliers. They're all third party. We have no relationship with them. Then there is a wheel bearing and track monitoring system which is on board, which tells you well in advance when your wheel is going to get damaged, up to 3 months before the wheel gets damaged. And all these sensor systems, the equipments come from different suppliers and they all plug in together. Each one of these suppliers has fought for the right to be on that coach on L1 basis and meeting the sourcing requirements of Indian Railways and integrated into a single application. Now, India is an IT powerhouse. IoT technologies are the leapfrog from the legacy systems where you would typically go to the same supplier for the sensor system and to the same supplier for the dashboard. From that, we are moving towards a multilateral sourcing of parts and integrating into a platform using very open technologies. In my humble opinion, that's the future and that's where it is headed to. And as Indian Railways, we have taken very cogent steps in predictive maintenance. But my personal feeling is that involving the Indian industry into developing open applications such as these, even when it comes to wayside inspection systems, even when it comes to onboard inspection systems, and more importantly, in how the customer, that is the passenger, is going to benefit with greater availability of information, entertainment. All these can be enabled using IoT, which in a typical case in point we are doing. So a multilateral organization effort towards solving the problem is what we need.
Yeah, just a follow-up, Mr. Pawandeep. So there are two questions I think which is coming to my mind, and probably other panelists may also, may share. One is that you created a very healthy environment, tying up with different, not only the government but the vendors, and you were able to successfully deliver an application and an integration of all the subsystems that goes into it, and that was a smart coach and a very smart work also. So I would like to hear from you more about how this whole journey and a very happy journey happened. Number one, and a second question would be more keeping the dimensions and the magnitude of the interventions that is required in the Indian railway scenario. Will such an approach would be useful in solving the larger rolling stock, the larger asset base that we are having, unless and until we have a integrated supply.
Nitin, I think very well said and very well put. First of all, it needs the attitude of a learner, a student, to go to Indian Railways. What usually happens is that we go to sell a complete system because that's what we know solves the problems elsewhere. But Indian Railways has its very typical problems. I'll give you a case in point, which will help you understand how this entire thing came in. I also invented a device which is called the fog pass device. That was in 2007. Till 2011, it didn't come in. But really, the way that device came in, and today, Indian Railway says that 96% is the on-time performance even in dense fog. So that utility came in by going to the customer and learning from him, understanding his problem and solving it in grassroots upwards. See, it has its challenges. It definitely requires a nodal agency to come together to understand. But more importantly, it requires the industry to have an attitude of a student when they go to the customer, and the ability and the patience to go to the multiple nodal agencies that we are talking to. This is the only way you can bring about systems that really solve the problem. That's my humble opinion.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Pandip. So, as a follow-up question was something that having an integrated approach, keeping the dimensions that we are looking at interventions, would not be something that railways should look at, or it would be more beneficial for us, keeping in view the timelines we are looking at the technology interventions.
Nitin, it has advantages and disadvantages. The biggest disadvantage of an integrated system would be that you have a vendor tie-in forever. You're tied for the same sensor system and the same IT applications. So you're dependent on the vendor to improve the sensor, or that is the equipment which is measuring your parameters, and on the dashboards as well. Whereas, it does have advantages of immediate speed, but on terms of long-term evolution, an open system historically has always been more beneficial. And I don't really expect Indian Railways to come in over the next 3 years with an entire IT system which is ready and deployed. They will take their time. It's a place which has scale. And that gives enough time for industry to come up with solutions which are open and holistic at the same time and quick to implement.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Pawandeep. And it was very encouraging to hear from you a success, both in terms of the smart coach and also the 96% on time during this foggy. Your contribution to the Indian Railways is highly appreciated. I'll ask Mr. Narendra Ashar also, and coming from a technology-driven organization that is Hitachi, we'd like to hear from you his ideas on how technologies, IoTs, as we now say, and the future technologies which help railways not only in infrastructure creation, operations and maintenance, also services that we offer to its customers. Yeah, Mr. Narendra.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. And just the previous speaker, I would like to congratulate for a very pioneering and good work done, but long way to go in smart coach. So more cloud coming in, more data coming in, more analytics coming in, more AI coming in is the way out. So I believe that will be done. And I see him smiling also. So that's very good. Thanks, Pawan. to hand over the mantle. Now, I'd like to touch on two main topics. One is the thing is timetable for freight trains. And both the topics have been addressed by our Prime Minister in the last month, in January itself, not last month, in a very big. This is the inauguration of DFCC. And in the DFCC, what Hitachi has contributed is the TMS, Western DFC, Train Management System or Traffic Management System. There's one more we have contributed to it through Ansaldo. When it started, it was Ansaldo, now it is Hitachi, is the CTC for Tundla. That is in the North Central Railways. Both these things are exemplary. So now that we are having a dedicated freight corridor, we are having a freight movement which is very good. We are having a double stacked container, and we have got very high power locomotives. We already have 12,000 horsepower from Indian Railways in partnership with Alstom. Then we have got Sheshnag, and we have got Vasuki Nag, which are 3.5 and 4 kilometer trains, which are running the coal. It started in one zone and it ended in another zone. Such a long train in Bilaspur section. Last week, this was the outcome. Now, having this very high infrastructure, very high capable infrastructure, we are in a position to do timetabling of the freight trains, which was actually a dream. Freight train matlab maal gadi chalti hai, wahi chalne do. So it's right time to consider pan India traffic movement using TMS and CTC. What would be needed is enough volumes or enough orders. Like at Sanjeev Kumar right now said, we get a typical tender in isolation for one section, one zone like that. So industry, the cost will come down, the prices will come down, the more India specific TMS and CTC would come out. Our experience in both these places has been very good. Our Japan and Italy teams both have learned a lot, and Western DFC is already working. So movement of freight, that is a very, very important thing we can consider, and TMS is the key driver. TMS or CTC. I mean, I'm not getting too much into terminologies, but the spirit is that you control everything from a computerized, centralized place. So that is the key technology we have to consider, and we are prepared for it. 5 years ago, it wasn't very good environment for whatever reason. Another thing that it will trigger as a downstream or upstream technology is what is mentioned here. Is I'm reading the exact word is this one. Pilot studies on route optimization will go on this, and introduction of operation research methods. Now, this was a mantra given by Prime Minister, as well as it was also held by the Honorable Railway Minister some 3 years ago. Now, when we have devices or when we have systems like TMS, CTC, connected trains, the timetable for freight trains, these are the enablers to operations research. So their visionary thought process of doing it is very good, and India is a very good platform for that. So that is one side of the story. How to move the freight trains. On the passenger front, another inauguration which was done by Prime Minister was the NCMC card for DMRC. It was done for the Delhi, and they also have plans for doing for the entire city, that is about 300 stations. And the key mantra is that NCMC card, National Common Mobility Card. Now, that has come up very well in the last 3 years. That's not all, as I was saying, it is an enabler to the future. When we say enabler to the future, now we may see that most metros have got tenders for NCMC card. They have tenders for hardware, software, NCMC card, banks, payments, all that things, right? So NCMC card is coming in all the cities. If you see Bangalore, they have a plan or they have implemented in a part of it. Then Delhi is obviously inaugurated by PM. Ahmedabad was inaugurated by PM in 2019. So all countries, cities are going for it. Bus are deploying it. So I have seen a lot of smart city tenders, and we have participated as Hitachi. That's all is about NCMC card. However, a long way needs to be going because there are impediments in that. CDAC and Ministry of Housing out of work. So wherever I go, abroad or whatever, wherever I go, whomever I meet, Japan or Italy or any other Hitachi counterparts, they say this is something which is second to none. No other country has done it to this scale and can do it to this scale. But now, using this, again, I am saying that all these are platforms for future growth. For example, today's agenda, we have written QR code in tickets, right? So we are saying that QR codes will help us a lot. They're coming up in a lot of cities. DST is having an initiative. Maybe it got a hit because of COVID and things like that. Some of the railways are adopting it. Some stations are adopting it. But we need to go about beyond QR code, because a large number of Indian stations are gateless. Okay. And putting something like a QR code for a validator at gate entry is very good and fast technology. It can help us in urban. However, going pan-India, we need something like a gateless technology. So these gateless technologies are being piloted in parts of Europe. Hitachi is one of the part of the initiative in Italy. However, there are, again, as Mr. Sanjeev said, always the procurement kind of restrictions and things like that, as well as the awareness from the authorities or the purchasers, about deploying these technologies before time. 5 years back, I could understand their but now that so much groundwork has been done by NCMC card, as a next step, we can eliminate the card. Now, we are going from physical card to virtual cards, I am not carrying any credit card in my pocket to do any shopping. I am going with my phone. So when it moves there, we can actually get technology, which is a next initiative. Another is what pinches today is the cost of financials, that per transaction cost, although it's very low compared to many other countries, the commission by the banks and also some innovation is going on. We heard that will be very welcome, where the cost of transaction comes down, Other very important thing we need to consider is even today in the ticketing scenario, we are one city, one design. Although we are one nation, one card, following Prime Minister's dream, and this has come out NCMC card, we are far from that at city level. So for example, I designed something for Hyderabad, and when I open the tender of Bangalore or Delhi, so much changes, So from a supplier perspective, there is a restriction. Secondly, from a deployer perspective, imagine we have to standardize for a state. So what technology which is coming up is automatic fare collection as a service. I don't have to put a server on every station. I don't have to put a server on every service or every metro line, which is now becoming a trend in larger cities. I don't have to put a server in state transport separate and whatever, you understand. So automatic fare collection as a service enabled by the cloud.
Yeah, Mr. Narendra, I mean, just to add on to what you said, it's a very interesting thing,
Yes.
making an integrated procurement, making an integrated, specifications, which is, applicable, the technology is applicable irrespective of the states or the regions that it is being procured to. One of the other beneficiary, which I believe is from, this integrated ticketing or the QR codes, has been to help the authorities in designing future ready stations. So you have to an idea about the mobility of the people, from where people are going to where. So that would be of great help, even designing the infrastructure system. So this is where that role of the technology will ideally very help us in making us more infrastructure robust and the planning the infrastructure. Well, thank you for, and congratulations for your contributions to the Indian Railways and the DFCC corridor, also DFC corridor. And keeping the DFC corridor in mind, one of the technology interventions which IR has done, that typically they have taken a double stack container through their own railway line using innovations in their pantograph and the OHE subsystem. And here I would like to invite Mr. Giriraj Verma to share his thoughts and how he has been able to help us in this technology driven initiatives that now IR is looking at. Probably you are mute, sir. I'm sorry, you are. I'm not able to hear.
I think he's on mute.
Yeah. Not
Kamal,
yet.
call him. Call up. Doing that.
So as we get back to Mr. Giriraj, that's our technology challenges again that we have to live with. With the application of technology, it eases us, and how technology has been enabled us to meet together in a virtual platform. It's also one of the benefits, and rather the COVID challenges has enabled us to meet through this online mechanism. Meanwhile, to continue our conversation, I will definitely come back to Mr. Giriraj. While technology has helped us in creating better efficiency, cost efficiency, and also more asset utilization, but how technology can help us in even from the environment side? How technology helps us in environment? How technology helps us in basically looking?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Mr. Giriraj.
Can you hear me now on the system? You can hear
Yeah,
me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, Mr. Graj. So we can continue and definitely share your experience and how DFC corridor and the Indian Railway network are now integrated through a double stack container.
He's back again on mute. No, he's back again on mute.
Hello.
Now,
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry for the technical glitches. Yeah. See, in the fraction of time, we just had some technical glitches. How important it would be when we do remote monitoring and maintenance and all that we're talking about. So we have to be really ready for all those technical glitches, and our system has to be really up for that. Anyway, so just coming out to the question for me. Dedicated freight corridor and then high reach pantographs. We were really, enthusiastic about it. And then when we heard that, Government of India is opening and thinking about the dedicated freight corridor and double stack container systems, we really opted for that. Let me tell you that, WebTech technology is, first of all, is around 4-decade-old system. They have a lot of technology in it, and then they have a lot of learning about it. We have a lot of solution which has been given to the entire world in the rail in transit, in transit. And what I'm trying to say here that we can reap upon them, and then we can use it for the Indian concept. One of them was high reach pantograph. That was basically designed and built for Indian scenarios. That was basically Indianized. The word that I'm saying here, Indianized, is pretty important here because unless you have technology tested and proven to the place where you be using it, it's not going to really sustain and then give you the prolonged benefit of it. So the high reach panto is basically was being used already other part of the world where we have an access to the technology as our partners have it. But the Indianization was pretty important. So it was a pretty challenge to really make it work for the Indian scenario, being the discontinuities or unevenness on the track, on the OHEs. There were a lot of learnings when we were trying to deploy it, and then once we have done it, it's pretty true, and then really helped it out to the recent deployment in Web 12, 12,000 HP locomotives is a good success to that. Now, I just wanted to bring a little contrast to the discussion which is happening over here. Much has been spoken about IT, remote monitoring and maintenance systems, IT infrastructure and all. I just wanted to put a contrast to it, and I just wanted to say that technology is not that alone. I think technology is also to use the system in much greener, efficient, and effective way. So what WebTech has done on it is, part of it is using the energy in its fullest, and then really bring the efficiency to it. See, one part of it is like harming the the environment using the high pollutant refrigerants. That has been really the talk of the nation. So and coming up with the Kigali Protocol, Kyoto Protocol, and then recently Kigali has also said it that we have to be future enable HVAC system, that we need to have it. We have to have good refrigerant which can really sustain for the longer time. So having seen this, our European partners, I mean, all our technology centers in Europe and all, they are really working very hard on deploying these solutions of really greener refrigerant to it. R290, which is propane, has been a talk of the town, which is actually already implemented in Deutsche Bahn, and one of the trainers that he's been running and then get the data. Prototyping is already over. It is a field monitoring which is happening right now. So R290, let me talk about R290. R290 being a propane, it's a natural refrigerant. It's basically having a very low global warming potential and very high ODP, very low ODP compared to R124A, which is 1,400 or close to 1,500. This is just 3. So only disadvantages that we have it with R290 is that it is explosive. But having said that, being an explosive, still used very efficiently, using a very efficient system, and then they've already demonstrated it. The trains are running in the German area in Deutsche Bahn. It's being used. So what I'm just trying to say here that we have also a very high responsibility over to our environment to really keep it green and efficient. R290 is one of the things. We know that CFCs are already out, HFCs are already on the verge of getting collapsed. HFOs are in. For the automotive sector, HFOs like 1234YF and 30, they are there. They are being highly praised and used, but they are not suiting to the railway industries. What suiting to the railway industry is really this, what I'm just saying, R290. So we are technology ready for that. It's only about the adaptation to the Indian scenario. It's only about it's about, let's say, Indianization of it, and then railway being ready to really adopt it. So that's the key here, actually. Another part that I wanted to bring in on, let's say, energy efficiency is introduction of CO2 systems. So we know that having acceptable level of carbon dioxide in the code is really necessary. Beside that, having let's say 2,600 or 2,500 ppm level of CO2 inside a coach, you need to have a pressure entry to it. Every household HVAC, every car AC, they have a fresh air entry. What fresh air entry brings it to it is extra heating. It needs to be really efficient on that. We have developed a system which is basically dependent on actual measurement. Okay, let me talk about that, how the system runs. The current system is basically based on the axle load, and then they actually see what is the passenger load. They calculate the passenger based on that, and then they operate the pressure entry based on that, which is in steps of 25% of each. So 25, 0, 25, 50, 75, and 100. But this system which I'm talking about is basically concurrently modulating it, real sensing it, the CO2. It's not directly, it's not transforming the passenger load and then calculating based on that the CO2 entry. It's basically calculate based on the CO2 level itself, and then operates all the dampers and then control it.
Yeah. So in a way, it's a very smart, smart way to use technology, and provide a very efficient and a green environment. Because the way you have outlined the process involved, behind this whole initiative gives us an insight of how smartly we can have a technology enabled green and environment friendly way to do a HVAC system also.
Yeah, exactly. And then it has actually, we have tested the system. This is already deployed in one of the metro. I don't want to name it right now, but it is already deployed in one of the metros. It is reaping the benefit. We have tested. We have done a little, let's say, system here. We have seen it 10 to 20% of really the energy efficiency.
Yeah, and this goes very well with the railways focus on a zero carbon, 100% electrification, use of renewable energy, and how technology helps us in preserving the environment, providing a more greener solution to the mobility. Here, I would also like to request Mr. Patil, because he will talk about how efficiently the composite sleepers, and then therefore he will also. I'll request him, Mr. Patil, also to contribute on the how the new technologies and the way we will be able to create solutions out of the data that is being captured during the operations and maintenance to help us in a more efficient operating system.
Yeah, coming to the composite sleeper, you have touched the right chord. Composite sleepers are basically manufactured out of the scrap tires and the scrap plastics. The end life of the tires and the scrap plastics, these two are combined and manufactured, and these are becoming quite a rage now. A lot of these countries where there is huge plastic and rubber pollution, so these countries are encouraging them to use that and develop the product. So Patil Group has been a pioneer in this, and our sleepers initially imported, and right now, of course, we are in the process of setting up a plant. And we have been trying to tell the railways that why should we import the foreign waste when we ourselves have so much of waste to dispose of within the country. So this product is quite efficient. It has a much larger life cycle of more than 40 years. Right now, we have used it only on the steel girder bridges. If you can, all of you know, steel girder bridges are using steel on steel. So there is a lot of rattling noise you hear. There is a lot of maintenance issues when you use a steel on steel and run railways on that. So this product has been very efficiently developed and deployed, and our railways are getting these benefits. And now we are talking to railway for taking this up at the bridges and also at the level crossings. This is another area where this application is there, So that will really be a very good initiative once railway adopts it in a large scale. Now, coming to your second part of the question was on using all this data that is generated from the sensors for the various wayside or onboard systems, which our other panelists spoke about. I think that is the data is the future. There's so many things that you can do out of the data, how you can interpret the data and develop new products for our railways. That is another one area where, the data can be monetized by the railway and, analyzed it and come back to the industry, and industry can take insight into that data and start developing various kind of products for special application for special areas, maybe areas where we have black cotton soil or places where are on very sharp curves. What else can we do with the data? So the future is data. I mean, it's the next gold. And there are various methods on which we can use the data, help the customer, improve the passenger comfort, improve the speeds. Yeah, this is what I would like to say about.
Yeah, Mr. Patil, thanks a lot, and you also contributing for a cleaner and a greener environment, and that looks. Congratulations to you for your effort.
Yeah, one more thing, we are also trying to use solar panels on this composite sleeper. because they are very, very friendly for inserting the solar panel. So you can imagine all the sleepers with solar panel, the kind of, you don't require any space. You are using the current track and generating solar energy, and this solar energy can be given to the wayside systems, which we will be developing and deploying. So there are multiple ways where you can look at innovating, because on the concrete sleeper you cannot put the solar panels, but on the composite it is an ideal situation where you can put the solar panels and generate electricity for all your wayside requirements, maybe station lighting, maybe the wayside systems, what we talked about. Yeah, these are the future things that we can look at.
That's where the innovations in the technology helps us in enabling a more greater impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Patil. One of the things that what we can think about is sometimes Atmanirbhar Bharat and the technology, adoption of technology sometimes maybe do not. Sometimes people say it doesn't get gelled together. Some of the industry voices also reflect the same thing. In the background of it, yes, Atmanirbhar Bharat has been a major focus of the government, and technology definitely is one area also a major focus. So I would request Mr. Sanjeev, in the prior discussion also, and then within the railways also, there is a lot of private sector participation going to happen, not only in private trains, private stations, and even the infrastructure management part of the, not only the track infrastructure, but the rolling stock infrastructure management would also have a lot of technology-driven private sector interventions. So, I'd like to have your thoughts, Mr. Sanjeev, on the way we look forward to have a technology enablement with a background of a Make in India initiative.
Nitin, I missed part of your question. Can you just repeat your question?
Yeah, I'll just share that, a lot of private sector participation is going to happen in the Indian Railways, both
Yes.
on the trains,
Yes.
on the wagons, on the track system, signaling. So a lot of participation is going to happen. So with the Make in India background, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, how do we foresee this technology adoption to be in line with the way we are thinking of adopting technologies for future?
I think some of that is just my thought at this point of time. The question was extempore, so I haven't given it much of a thought, frankly speaking. But some of that with the privatization that is happening, some of that will evolve on its own. When you bring in private players, they would like to see increased availability, improved asset utilization, higher reliability of these assets. So I think the private players, once they get into this space, like private train operations, they would themselves would like to bring in the technology into this country, and and obviously, Atmanirbhar will play a role at that point of time. So I think some of that would be natural. As private players come in, they would like to see lower cost, higher reliability, increase asset utilization, and then I think they would partner with technology companies like ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that will also help us to overcome some of the challenges we have using a government procurement system.
Absolutely, and I think even government procurement systems can evolve over a period of time. I think the example which Mr. Pawandeep gave on the smart coach side, I think it is a good start. The challenge with the government sector is that there are different, entities who procure, and there are different set of officers with different mindset. And there's huge amount of effort, like Mr. Pawandeep told, that huge amount of effort to bring everyone together to see things from the same perspective or from the same lens. I think, but that was a good example. I'm not fully aware of what all happened and how did we make that happen, but I think that was a great example. In fact, I would like to get in touch with Mr. Pawandeep and try to understand how did they make smart coach happen, and smart yard is still struggling, right? So we have been We have been talking about smart yards for a long time now. At least I am hearing for at least 2.5 years since RITES was doing study, and they came up with a really good study, and nothing much moved forward since then. And the way it moved forward a little bit, I think will not help Indian Railways, will not help any of the technology providers. But maybe Pavandipji, I'll try to get in touch with you and try to understand it better. How do you make smart codes happen?
It's my pleasure, Sanjeevji. Anytime.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pavandip. Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev. So, when we look at, how technology is helping us in creating solutions and also, in a way helping us in more greener solutions. One of the questions that, this forum has got from one of the audience is that, the timetabling of the freight system. And, we do understand that there are few model stations few model trains which have been taken up with the freight with the timetable on the freight parcel trains and all. So this has been a very enthusiastic response from the railways, and a very they have also taken up this challenge of COVID times and trying to introduce new technologies not only for their operations but also the management part of their rolling stocks, of the track system. And the way we all, I think, from the forum, it's coming out that there are technologies available globally also, and that can be customized to our Indian conditions also, which will help us in creating a very sustainable technology interventions, not only helps us in the infrastructure creation, but also the operations maintenance, and enhances the safety and security of the and the services being offered.
And some of that could be very simple. There are multiple technologies that we can bring in, like for locomotive, if you look at it, automatic engine start stop, right? This technology is available all around the world. Everyone uses it. It makes our environment greener. Just the batteries, which are used for starting or for auxiliary power, just upgrade those batteries from lead acid to lithium-ion batteries today, and they are much more efficient. Much more efficient battery management system will help us, improve the environment. Even on the HVAC side, someone from I think WebTech was talking about HVAC system. Just having an effective battery management system with lithium-ion battery could improve the environment significantly. Speaking, just minor interventions in rolling stock can also make huge difference to the environment. And then obviously, all the countries that you look at, especially where the freight movement is heavy, whether it is US, Australia, or any other country, they have moved to higher emission standards in their country. But in our country, although for the automobile sector, we have very high emission standards, Bharat 6, etc., but there are no emission compliant standards for locomotives. And if you look at the road transport, more than I think 35% of the pollution is created by diesel locomotives in this country. Although we are moving towards electrification, but I think it would be a slow transition, and I think it would take another 5 to at least 10 years before we fully transition to electric mode of transportation in rail sector. So I think emission compliance is another area that the Indian Railways can look at it. At least locomotives that would run closer to larger cities like Delhi, Mumbai, where we see very high pollution levels, and see how do we kind of restrict that to emission compliant locomotives. So there are many things that can be done over a period of time, thought through appropriately.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mr. Sanjeev. And then just we are running out of time, and we'll have one last feedback and a response from Mr. Narendra. So, Mr. Narendra, just a concluding, keeping the paucity of time that we are running into, we'll like to have your views before we conclude this session. You're mute, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, mute.
This is about route optimization. Route optimization and timetabling of freight trains. Now, if you remember, 3 years back, CRIS, at a Center for Railway Information Systems, had floated in EOI, and many people across industry, people have participated in that. IT companies, some companies with only mathematics background. Not that the railways top 5 companies are participating. We participated from Hitachi. And the conclusion was that we need a ground system or a base system in place for operations research model to work. You know, with the signaling system we have today, and the operations research system would simply not have the kind of good data to run and do all these optimizations. So the base systems like the TMS, the cross-country signaling system, in whatever form, you know, you call it TMS or CTC, has to have the data so that the operations research models can be built and can be improved effectively using AI techniques. So we had made a presentation for that. The limitation is that we don't have good data. And Chris will have all this GAN. But to operationalize it, we need equipment on the ground.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Naren, and that's a very important feedback. To enable technology, you have to have a base system and the data in place so that we can help and create efficient use of that data for the technology.
So in many places, I mean, saying that I have a cloud doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, sure.
The
sure.
cloud
Thanks,
should
Mr.
know
Naren,
where my train is standing and how it moves.
In fact, Narendraji, a few years back, I remember when there was a lot of talk about ATCS. I mean, everyone was talking about ATCS. There were some very bright officers in Indian Railway signaling system. They said, first you should have, there's enough capacity left in the, railway track through route optimization. And they actually proved it with the data that TMS make more sense than ATCS if you want to focus on the capacity enhancement through route optimization. I think great points, Narendra.
They may be right, but the thing,
yes,
separate discussion on it because very separate discussion on it because this is a very complex topic. And about capacity measurement, we discovered that there is no standard for measurement of that.
Absolutely.
So somebody says I'm running 150% capacity on my track.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Train on train.
Yes. Fair enough.
So standardization that needs to go in terms of thought process to even think of this technology.
Yeah.
So I mean, forgive my critical comment, but that's reality, right?
Yeah.
Nitinji, I would like to add over here.
Yeah, sorry. So
Last
thanks.
comment.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, definitely there are a lot of.
Yeah, I would like to add over here. I think Narendraji has raised a very pertinent point of data availability for AI to kick in. Having cloud infrastructure is one thing. Having the right data at the right place is another thing. Fortunately, most of the systems that Indian Railways has been using have extensive onboard data logging capabilities, and it's been our experience that data never gets extracted. There's no means of getting that data to the cloud. And one of the core of our technologies that we are developing today, be it for air conditioning systems, the smart coach, and even for many of the track monitoring systems, is how to extract this data from existing products and get it onto the cloud so that you can quickly deploy AI-enabled applications. I think that's the point where we can have maximum benefits with least investments. Yeah, thank you.
I would just a smart coach can become 10 times smarter if his resolution becomes 5 times lesser of data capture, right?
So on that note, with all the passion,
I would not really comment on that as of now.
Data, yeah, but I realize this all across. I mean, whatever, And
well, on that note, NG, with for all the passion, candid, and forthright approach that we have taken, we have to bring the session to a close. It was a wonderful and engaging session. Thank you all the speakers, Mr. L.S. Patil, Narendra ji, Sanjeev Kumar ji, Pavandeep ji, and Giriraj Varma ji. Last but not the least, our moderator, Nitin. Thank you for very ably moderating the session and bringing out the true feelings of all the speakers is very important because that is what gets across. On that note, we bring our day one gets to an end. We regather again tomorrow at 11 o'clock for two very interesting sessions. One will be on freight and passenger movement, and second will be passenger comforts and amenities. Until then, thank you, sponsors. Thank you, all the delegates. Thank you, of course, the speakers. Have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nirja. Thanks, Nitin.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was very nice talking to you.